Um, I am Matt, and I've been a member of the church for probably about 15, 20 years. Ever since my wife grew up in the church, and then I joined her as we were dating through high school, and then we got married in the church, and so yeah. Um, but anyways, I don't have enough time in the entire day to even scratch the surface on what it's like to be a prepper or things to think about for prepping. So what I will do is just try and get your brain juices flowing of how to think about stuff, and give you a couple things that solutions that I've come up with, and just kind of how you can look at your everyday life and how it would be impacted from disasters and things that are not everyday things, and how you can work through those. So my prepping started back in 1998 when my uncle started prepping for Y2K. So he was a Y2K prepper, and so I got kind of a taste of that. And then my family, after I had a family, and that first tornado sirens went off at our house, and it's like, okay, how do I take care of my family if a tornado hits us? So I started there, which is a really good place to start, because tornadoes and snowstorms and things like that aren't a real big impact, but they're pretty isolated, but they're things to help you kind of think about what's going on. So what I did was I took a truck toolbox and I put it down in the basement. Makes a really nice bench and a really good place to store my stuff. So first things you think about are clothing. After a tornado, those normally happen at night. So usually you're not dressed, and you need some kind of clothes to put on if you're running down to the basement in a hurry. So shoes, socks, clothing, pants, things for during and after. Think about after the tornado, if it does hit, you're going to be walking around, there's going to be debris, nails, carnage all over the place. So you need to take care of your feet, maybe some work gloves. During the incident, I went to a garage sale and bought all of my kids, or several bike helmets that my kids will then put on. Because we live in an older house, we don't have a safe room or anything like that. So we are underneath the stairs like they recommend. And, debris is still going to be flying around. So let's protect our heads by putting on some bike helmets. I have an old hard hat from a job that I put on. And then also during, my wife and I came up with this design that I wanted my kids to put some high visible clothing on. That way, if we get separated, if something happens and they're like in a pile of rubble or whatever, one, we will be able to see them a lot better. And two, if I'm not with them, if I'm unconscious or if they are unconscious, any first responders that come across them will have all the pertinent information that they need for life safety. So as a first responder, I kind of knew what information I would be asking for or wanting to know is any known allergies. So allergies, or if you have other kids that are have special needs, you could put that on something like this, and that way that'll let the first responders know, hey, this is how you're gonna work with this child who may be nonverbal or whatever. But that's all that's the main focus here, is just letting first responders know if you are either unable to let them know, we're going to give them the information, along with what hospital we use. That way then we can get a hold of their medical records and know anything and everything about that child at that point, along with phone numbers for mom and dad, and then also distant family members who might not be actually impacted by that incident, but can also maybe either come and be the guardian for that child, either pick them up or give better or more information to responders or whoever is needing information. to help that child. So just doing she got into not screen printing. These are ironed on, so she can actually print these on the computer and then just iron them on. But before that, we would just do a Sharpie. So just, writing something as easy as that. Now we were growing up all through the sizes, redoing one every other year, but now they're big enough that they now just have adult shirts, and those will work for several years. During a tornado or an incident like that, which is what I foresee would be our first disaster, hopefully that my family would see, we're looking at maybe a couple days of food. You want things that are kind of easy to cook. You're not going to have utilities, but I do a lot of backpacking and stuff, so I've got ways to heat up water, heat up food. I can, I have like ravioli, things my kids like. Comfort foods are what I'm thinking for that kind of stuff. So I have ways of heating it up. You can do those big camp stoves that run on like either the propane or the white fuel for camping. Just think of, hey, you don't have utilities, you don't have power's shut off, gas is shut off, however, whatever your house runs on, those could be out. So you might need ways of heating up food, heating up water, having clean water. So have a couple days worth of water. They say have a minimum of 1 gallon of water per person per day. That's very, very, very minimum. In your everyday life, you probably use close to 40 to 60 gallons of water between your shower and all your drinking and your toilet flushing and hand washing and all that stuff. You use way more than 1 gallon of water. So that's very, very minimum. But when something like that happens, you're not going to be using water to flush the toilets. You're not going to be using water to take a whole shower. You're going to do, sponge bath and that kind of stuff. So you can get by with 1 gallon of water, but it's a huge change. First aid kits are also a large thing that you need to have, along with just only having a first aid kit, but you need to have knowledge. So take a first aid class. And then if you do get a first aid kit, train with it. Go through that kit. Don't just buy a kit, leave it wrapped up in the packaging and put it away and not even know what's in there. Open it up, play with the stuff. If you need to go buy 2 of them, one to play with and train on, and then one to have, do it. That's great. This is my personal, I made this first aid kit because I am medically trained. I wanted my own type of stuff in here. So it's a completely unconventional first aid kit, but everything in here, I know what it is and what it does, and I'm going to be able to take care of anything that I foresee. Along with high-vis, you can go get some cheap little things like this to make you or your children more visible if anything like that happens. And like I said, it usually happens, they usually happen at night. So you can put that on as you're, walking around, and that way you're seeing a lot better. Along with during and after that incident, I went and bought a large 6-pack of these walkie-talkies. I gave my wife's parents live in the same community that we do, so I gave one to them and one to each of my neighbors. So that way, if we are in the basement, we can at least communicate with our neighbors, make sure they don't need anything, and let them know of our needs, and we'll all help each other out, and we can check on each other. Because you might not grab your cell phone, or your cell phone might be dead, they might not grab theirs. It's just another secondary way of communication. And then with that, you need to have flashlights, lanterns, ways of being able to see in the dark, because like I said, power's probably going to be going out. And then you can also go a little bit longer. This isn't necessarily made for during, say, storm or whatever, but say, you have a snow blizzard, knocks out the power for several days before they can come restore power for you. I can put this up in the window and charge my electronics and stuff. So I have a solar panel like this. It's just a panel. Or you can get things like this that are the solar panel battery combo. So this part right here is the battery, and it will hold a charge, and I can charge my cell phone 3 times off of this battery, along with having the 3 panels. They do make them smaller with just 1 panel on them. There's all different types, and then you can go even bigger. The Jackery down there, that is a 500 watt battery, solar powered battery. I can power a box fan for about 10 hours with that, or I can, I had a buddy of mine who uses a CPAP. He could, I didn't have him run it for 4 days, but we figured without recharging it in the sun every day, we could probably get about 4 days worth of the CPAP running off of it, or 4 nights. So if you have family members who require a CPAP to get a good amount of sleep, having something that big would be probably something to maybe think about.
Does it run loud when you do it?
What?
Does that?
Nope. No, it's completely silent. It's a battery. So yeah, here. So right there, now the power is on. Now that does have a fan that'll kick on to keep the batteries cooler, but it's just a real light, just like a computer fan. So it'll only kick on when you're drawing a lot of amps. So just to cool everything off. So when you have electronics, you need to be thinking about keeping those things full for communication and information gathering. Got a little multitasker here. When it comes to gathering information, this is a really nice kind of a Swiss Army knife of radios. So it is a AM, FM, and wideband radio. It also has a solar charger up here. Underneath the solar charger is a little room light, and then it also has a really powerful, 3 different flashlights, and then also a SOS, so it'll set off tones. So it's like a little emergency radio. It'll set off the SOS tones. You can charge it with the solar sun. You can crank wind it and charge it that way. If it's just completely dead, you can sit there and crank wind it up, or you can keep it charged by just plugging it into the wall like your cell phone. So this is a nice little emergency, kind of a Swiss Army knife of lights or radios. And also you can turn that light on to auto. So if it does not have power or any other power input, it'll turn an emergency light on. That way you can have it plugged into the wall, and it'll turn on when it has no power coming in.
What is that called?
Just a little emergency radio.
Okay.
Yep. So I just found this one on Amazon. I think it was like $30-40 if I remember right. Electronics and communications. During larger events, SHTF events, along with communications, I carry 3 different types of radios in my vehicle. I am a ham radio operator, along with, my family, you can, if you're, a ham license requires a test and a lot of information. It's kind of a pain in the butt. If that's not really for you, but you want to work on some kind of secondary communications between you and your family, you can get into what is a GMRS radio. That license does not require a test. They've made it a lot cheaper, and one license will actually cover the entire family. So I got the license. I bought my sister this radio. I bought my wife a radio, myself a radio, and my in-laws a radio. And I can talk to all of them with this GMRS. Now it doesn't operate on repeaters like the ham radio does, so I can't go across the world like this. I can talk to people up in Canada through repeaters. This one does not have repeater capabilities, but it does have a really nice range of, depending on the terrain, you can probably get 10 to 15 miles out of these little radios. And like I said, the license, they do require a license, but super easy to get. You just got to go through the FCC and do that. with communications and shit hits the fan scenarios, one good thing to be thinking about is people are always listening to the radios. So if you are going to utilize secondary communications, maybe think of coming up with some kind of language. You can put that printed out on a card, maybe even going up with a double language to where you have language A and language B, and have code words for your house, the status, if you're injured, have code words for that, have code words for anything and everything that you might want to keep private while talking over the radio waves, because there's always somebody going to be listening, especially during a situation. I'm going to have my radio scanning, listening for information, because when something happens like that, it's all about gathering information and know what's going on. So if I hear somebody talking in code, I'm going to go, yeah, I don't know. And, and pretty much ignore it and look for useful information. And then, so like I said, minimum 1 gallon of water per person per day. So storing that kind of water in a house takes up quite a bit of space. So what I've done, or my process is I live pretty near a creek, and depending on the time of the year, I can usually filter. I can acquire and filter water. I've got the physical means to go collect water, and now I have the physical ability to filter. There is a difference between filtration and purification. This is a backpacking water filter. So it's going to pull out all the bugs, the viruses, parasites, things that are going to make you sick. That's what is going to remove this. My daughter and I went backpacking around Clinton Lake and used a filter like this up there, and the water looked great, looked clear, it was running, stream going into the lake, but it had algae along the bottom, and so I ran it through this, totally safe to drink. Did not taste good one bit. So with that, you can then follow that up with chlorine tablets, iodine tablets, and those are going to change the taste of the water a little bit more. Maybe make it more like tap water, the chlorine tablets. Or you can purify it with like a Brita bottle. So this has got an activated charcoal filter in it, and that's going to purify it to an extent. Not, it won't get all of it out. Or you can go with something as large as this. This is a Berkey filter. They make these really large. This is for like an in-house or an in-home water filter. They're about this tall. They're really nice metal filters, and that will filter everything out of your water. It's a two-stage. You put the dirty water in top with the filters, and it filters down into the clean reservoir in the bottom, and then you have a nice little tap. So you can do that. I bought these filters, and I plan on just making instead of spending $400 on a Berkey water filter, I'm going to do mine out of 5-gallon buckets, because I can drill a hole the size of this, put this right in a 5-gallon bucket, and just let it come into another 5-gallon bucket, where then I can scoop my drinking water right out. So instead of a $400 water filter, I'm going to make one that's $10 if I need to. So what I did was I just went out and I bought the filters. So I like to do things like that, where I take a process, I get the main component, and then I do it myself cheaper if that's where I need to cut price or cut savings. So a couple years ago, my town had water. They were having water main problems, and they kept shutting our water service off probably 5 or 6 times within a 2-week period. And so because just the weather was playing havoc on the water mains. So we didn't know when we would or would not have water. So that's what prompted me to buy this bladder. It goes inside of your bathtub and uses your bathtub as a structure, and it can hold up to 65 gallons of water and keeps it clean rather than having it in your ooey gooey bathtub. Which, you know what? If you didn't have one of these, I'd say fill up your bathtub anyways, and you can clean it with some chlorine tablets, and it'll still be drinkable. It'll just the thought isn't really there, but worst case scenario, fill up that bathtub. So you can use this. It comes with a nice little pump, and you can pump it out into your cup, pitchers, whatever you need to, out of the tub into something for you to actually utilize. With that, can anybody tell me where some other water sources in your house, if the water was shut off, where could you get water?
Toilet tank.
Toilet tank. So there's probably about 2 gallons in your toilet tank. What else?
Water heater.
Water heater. So depending on the size of your water heater, anywhere from 65 to 80 gallons of water are in your water heater. One thing you need to think about is your elevation. So in my town, looking at elevation, I am higher than everybody in the immediate area. So that plays 2 roles looking at elevation. One, I don't have to worry about sewage backing up. If we lose major power, all the sewage pumps are going to quit working, right? So now I got to worry about sewage backing up into my house from everybody else's. Because I'm higher, I don't have to worry about it. But I do have to worry about losing water. So if I am worried about losing water, or the systems were down and we were getting to that point, I'm going to want to go down to the basement and turn off the water supply in my house. Because as soon as you turn your faucet on, all that water is going to be backing up into the lines, and you're losing all that water that's normally in your house, and it's going to your neighbors. So you've now lost all, 100 gallons of water from inside your pipes, your half-inch pipes, and your water heaters. You've lost it out of your house. So now you've got to go find some water to replace it. So during a large incident like that, where you might have water main breaks, you need to shut your water supply off. That way you hold on to those resources. So after doing a small scale of being prepared for small incidences like your tornadoes, your water disruptions, your power disruptions, and that kind of stuff, I look at there's 2 types of prepping or ideas: is bugging in and bugging out. Bugging in is you're staying home, you have everything that you store, you have all your resources, you have a shelter, you have security, you have all of your food and your preps and everything with you. Bugging out means you're putting all that stuff on your backpack. You might be putting it in a vehicle if it's running, or if you're able to, and you're hitting the road. Well, you're hitting the road with everybody else who may or may not have more or less than you, and you're basically a glorified refugee. So it's always better to bug in unless you can't. If you've got to get out of the area due to civil unrest, wildfires, not here likely, but Colorado, California, and those big wooded areas, they have to bug out due to wildfires, that kind of stuff. They have to grab all their belongings and bug out. So they're going to have a bug out bag, which will have everything they need. And they can grab that bag, throw it in their car, and hit the road, or on foot if that situation calls for it. So because of where we're at, I'm not really prepped to bug out. If I do have to bug out, I'm just going to grab my backpack, throw all my stuff in it that I normally take for backpacking, and I'm going to hit the road. I figured I could probably do that within 20 to 30 minutes. But I don't really see myself bugging out, so that's not something that I have stuff set aside to do. But what I do have is called a get home bag, or you can also call it a Minuteman bag, or a couple other names. Basically, all that has is my essentials. If something happens, whether it's an EMP or civil unrest and the highways are backed up, or any other incidents where I can't drive my truck home, I can grab this bag and it has everything I need, and I can walk home. And I'm looking at 30 to 40 mile walk, depending on where I'm at exactly. But with my work, I'm ranging anywhere in that on a normal day. And I can grab this bag and it will have everything I need to get home And I figured with that kind of mileage, I'm looking at maybe a good 2-day hike. So I'm looking at stopping and getting some sleep, possibly shelter. I use a vacuum seal bag in this. I don't have it in my bag right now, but it has wool socks, winter gloves, a good winter hat, and then a compression bag. And I vacuum sealed it so it takes up no space. And I keep that in my get home bag just in case if for some reason I don't have that stuff on me already. But then also I keep a good pair of boots, some pants, and usually a light jacket in my truck, just for that instance. And then in the bag I also keep my food bag here. It's just to carry a couple other things. And with getting home, I figure I'm going to be on the move. I'm not really too worried. I'm not worried about making warm meals or anything. So it's all stuff I can eat on the go. Just something to keep me powered up, fueled up, and on the move. So I have Cliff Bars, beef jerky, trail mix, sunflower seeds, things that I can just keep myself busy, keep myself moving, and energized. I also keep a small bottle of mixture of medications that I might want, from ibuprofen, allergy, Benadryl, Tylenol, just the basics that I might need from year to year. And then some extra Kleenexes for toiletry work, headlamp, just in case if I'm moving at night. Make sure your headlamp has a red light. So the red light will preserve your night vision, and it's also not as visible quite so far away as a white light. So if you're doing any kind of evading, so I see myself, since I'm usually in the city, but I live out in the country, I'm going to be working through creek beds, along the river, in the woods, and I'm going to be traveling. I would rather travel through somebody's private property or along the railroad than on the highways, because highways are going to be nothing but trouble from everybody that was traveling at that time where that incident may have happened. So with doing that, I also, with it being summer, mosquito repellent, because I'm going to be in the woods and down low and with the bugs, and I don't want to get eaten up and just be completely miserable. So a small thing of insect repellent. I use chem lights or glow sticks just for some ambient light if I need to. A emergency blanket has several uses, from controlling shock for major bleeding, to keeping yourself warm, dry. However, those just a multi-use, multiple-use item. A compass, so that if I do get turned around, I at least know which way north is and which way I need to start heading until I find a landmark that I'm familiar with. Along with filtering water, so I'm going to be able to filter the water, but I can't really do much for taste, because I'm probably going to be drinking out of the Kansas River, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't taste right. So I've figured out, you know what, we'll flavor the water to something that I want to drink. Plus, these are liquid IV, and it's a hydration multiplier, so it's kind of like Gatorade. It's got all your nutrients and electrolytes and stuff like that. So that's going to help me get even better. Plus, liquid IV then also has a energy multiplier, so it's not only just for hydration multiplication, but it's also an energy drink. So I can use these and kind of flavor up my water and make it more bearable to drink.
Did you find this locally, or did you have to order this?
Walmart.
Walmart.
Yep, Walmart has, or Dillon's. Dillon's has liquid IVs also.
Okay.
Yep, these are local. So yeah, that's gonna flavor my water, so I'll drink it better. Along with my get home bag, I have a poncho, which ponchos are really good for not only just keeping you dry, but it also kind of covers up your silhouette. So, and I went with a poncho because I'm gonna have a backpack on my back. I can put the poncho over the backpack. I might have a rifle with me sometimes. I don't always carry my rifle, but went with a poncho because that's going to cover a lot of my silhouette with whatever I might be carrying. and it also takes care of your silhouette, so you actually blend in into the surroundings a lot better anyways. And then on top of that, construction grade trash bags, multiple purposes. If I come across some really good stuff, I can throw in here. If it won't fit in my backpack, I can use one of these trash bags and put whatever I want in the trash bag. I can make a secondary poncho. I can make a shelter with it. I can do all kinds of stuff with this. With a little bit of rope, I can make a shelter, throw some branches over it, and you would have no clue I was even there. And then I'm also warm and dry. I like to carry these water bags, which are also, where are the black ones? Here they are. I like to carry these. They take up no space until you want to put water in them, but then they got these nice little clips, and I can clip them on the outside. You have to do the black ones if you're going to treat water with chlorine tablets, because the UV light will actually counteract the chlorine so if you get chlorine tablets, read the directions, and it's actually going to say that you have to let it sit for 4 hours in a dark environment for the chlorine tablet to kill all the bugs and everything in the water. So that's why I picked up these black ones. That way it will block out the UV and let those chlorine tablets do their job. Carry a little bit of rope and a little light handsaw, just in case if I need to brush in or make a shelter or camouflage or any other kind of, because like I said, I'm going to probably be walking railroad tracks, riverbeds, or along in the woods. If I need to, cut some wood, I'm not just using just the little pocket knife I have on my belt. Along with in here, I have a multi-tool, a secondary pocket knife, and you always want to carry multiple lighters. So I think this is my 4th lighter in this bag that I carry. So that's number 1. There's number 2, and then here's number 3. So in the military and the Boy Scouts, they have a saying that 1 is none, and 2 is 1, and 1 is none. So with things like this, yeah, they always say have multiple ways of starting a fire, and a lot of people take that as having a lighter and then having flint and steel and then having a ferro rod. Well, no, just have multiple of these. Why make things harder, when you can just use a couple of these? But that doesn't mean that I don't have the ferro rod. These are nice because in the middle of winter, Bic lighters don't like to work that well. So I do have a ferro rod that this will work at extreme cold temperatures. So you do want to have a couple different processes. Along with that, this is my little electronics bag. I have an electronic hand warmer, which it acts also as a battery backup. So it also has a little battery port on it, and then some extra batteries for anything you plan on carrying. Have extra batteries. So I have AAA batteries for my headlight and AA batteries for my flashlight in here. So there's a lot of really good YouTube videos. Oh, and then a sleeping bag. So if I do have to bunker down or even wrap myself up as I travel, I can use the sleeping bag to either catch some sleep or just wrap up if I need to. Like I was saying, there are several really good YouTube channels that go into good detail. One of them would be the Canadian Prepper, and then Casual Prepper. They both cover get home bags and a lot of these processes. Oh, and then also, if you're writing that down, DIY Prepper. He also covers a lot of really good information. So now that we've gotten home, something happens. We've gotten home. Now we've got all of our preps. Now we can look at a little bit bigger stuff, a long term. This is a MRE. Military puts these out. These have enough calories to fuel you for a whole day. They have a little heating element inside that you put a little bit of water in, and it'll actually heat up the entree of the meal or the dessert, whatever's in there, to give you a nice warm meal. It does require you to have a little bit of water for that water activated heating element to work. They are heavy because the meal inside actually has the sauce and everything else in it. Yeah, this one's really short, but they are heavy, but they are kind of all inclusive. Whereas you can then do, if you guys had the freeze drying or the backpacking meals, these are freeze dried meals that I made myself with freeze dryer. These are a lot lighter, but they also require a lot more water because I have to rehydrate them. And then you can even do, maybe not with the Mylar bag of the MREs, you can even do freeze dried meals in a Ziploc bag. They don't have as long of a shelf life because these ones and these ones are going to have a oxygen absorber in them that extend that shelf life because it's removed the oxygen. I just did this in a vacuum seal bag. This is a oatmeal with freeze-dried Greek yogurt, freeze-dried homegrown peaches, and a little bit of sugar for a really nice oatmeal meal that I'm going to be eating in like 2 weeks on a bike trip that I'm going to do. So I've got 2 things of oatmeal just that I made up, and then these are long-term freeze-dried cans that you can look into. Both available. The Augusta Farm is definitely available on Amazon. The NutriStore I don't think is, but it's also online. But these both have, most of those have 30-year shelf lives. They're very good foods. You just got to mix a little bit of water in with, take a cup of food, some water, and now you've got any kind of meals. They freeze dry darn near anything and everything from butter to spinach leaves to chicken to they don't really do a lot of beef. It's more bean based beef for like their hamburger and stuff like that because like I said, the fats in those meals really cut down on the shelf life. But the chicken being low fat and white meat, it's actual real chicken. So those are some things you can look into. And then these are some meals that I made the past couple years. I did oxygen absorbers and then put food products in 5-gallon buckets. And now I've got rice. This is a combination of a whole bunch of different meals I did for a 1-week bug out. I can feed my family with this bucket. I can feed my family for about a week with what's in this bucket, and it's all different types of food. But you can do the bucket process. Canadian Prepper talks about this really well. So yeah, go check him out. And then the Faraday cage. So I kind of foresee the Faraday cage. There are several different thought processes behind the Faraday cage of whether it needs to be grounded, not grounded, shielding, solid metal, completely sealed up, or just wire mesh, or a vehicle being a good enough Faraday cage. It's kind of a unstudied phenomenon because there's not really a good way to play with it without doing something large. But EMPs do happen naturally. They happen. I think the last one was back in the 40s or 50s by a solar flare. Was the last large one that happened. So they do happen naturally. They can also happen from transformers or nuclear warheads being detonated out in outer space or in the atmosphere. So what my process was, I decided to go for a double insulating Faraday cage. So I have the outer shield here, but then I have a secondary cage inside with another can that is insulated from the outer shield. So I have a piece of foam in the bottom that's like 1.5 inches thick that will keep this insulated from the outer. And then that way, if the outer doesn't shield all of the energy, then the inside can, which then my electronics, which I usually keep my backup ham radio, I keep that AM FM radio, and then I keep 2 walkie-talkies. Because if all of our electronics are fried, I want to have communication to whoever might else have a radio. I want to have communication between me and anybody doing recon with walkie-talkies, and then some kind of band radio to gather information with whatever might be out there. But then all of that's insulated with cardboard from the inner shielding. So these are just a couple processes. Like I said, I don't have enough time in a week to tell you everything. But yeah, go check out, if it's something you're interested in, check out those YouTube videos, or wave me down at church. I'll gladly talk to you about what I think and stuff like that. But
how often do you check the integrity of the stuff that you have? Like, do you need to check that this stuff has a charge, or like the stuff in your Faraday cage?
Right.
Do you need to check that, or is it just kind of like put it away, forget about it until you?
No. Every once in a while, I'll go down and turn them on and drain the battery, and then recharge them back up. But yeah, like the AM FM radio, that's rechargeable. And then the other ones are AA batteries. So I actually leave the batteries in the outer shell, along with my my antennas and stuff that don't need to be in here because they're tight. And then it's a matter of having backup batteries or other ways of getting power.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, yes.
So like your jackery,
Yep.
an EMP could fry the electronics in
Yes.
there, right? So it's going to be no good then.
I
have a
think.
little Patriot one about that big that could go into a Faraday.
Right.
So
So with that one, I actually put that in a larger Faraday bag, and then I put it in that truck toolbox, which is metal surrounding it. So I also have that kind of in a EMP protection with that metal toolbox, and then also a bag. So, yep. So, yeah, because they make Faraday bags like...
just like little computer bags.
Yeah, this right here is a Faraday bag I keep my walkie-talkies in my truck. I keep in my ham radio. I keep that. Yep. That's yep. And this is actually it's called From Mission Darkness. They designed Faraday. They actually design a lot of things for the government. So when people are going into places and they don't want to be detected, they can put their cell phone and everything and not be tracked by their cell phone, because it does. Mission Darkness also has an app that will protect. Measure cell phone, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and all other kind of and satellite connections. And once you put it in there, they want to make sure that it goes to the ceiling. And so it's really cool.
There's that emergency alert up to the floor. And some people are saying that they didn't everything that's just in case they're just checking.
Yeah. Mission Darkness. Yep. That is the store brand that you can buy, or you can make your own with like a metal trash can. How's it going? Right. Yep. But you need to insulate between your device and that shield.
Device,
Sure. Yep. And then also your insulation, depending on the magnitude of the pulse, the energy, If you look at like wire insulation for just power, you need more insulation for the higher voltage. So depending on how strong that pulse is, will require the amount of insulation you need, if that makes sense. So that's something else to think about. I don't know the answer
There
to
you
it.
have it, the foam in the bottom.
Right.
And then you only have cardboard here.
Right? But space. Yeah, the cardboard, but then I have the space, the airspace. Right. The cardboard just kind of keeps it from falling. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. Whole bunch of stuff to think about.